This is the Speak Easy podcast where we go behind the scenes and talking about what you need in order for you to be the successfully paid speaker and author. I am your host, out to these spellers, the voice coach, or founder of the World Voice Me, a virtual network of female speakers coming together to impact social change. And with that being said, I'm excited about our guest today. So I hope you're ready because we're going to talk about leaving that legacy, leaving something for the grandkids to boast about. With that being said, I want to say hello, David.
Aloha from Hawaii.
Yes, from Hawaii. Yes, I am feeling the vibes right now. Why don't you tell the Speak Easy audience a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into today's topic and see what this whole leaving something for the grandkids to boast about is about.
Sure. Well, it's fun to be on the show, and I do this quite often because at my stage of the game in life, I am giving back not only to our grandkids but to the audience at large. I was born at an early age. I was actually born in England, and my wife and I are 81 years old. We've been married 60 years. I put up with living in England until I was 15, ran away from home, finished high school, barely. I graduated with a master's degree in peripheral vision. You'll get that on the back door. And then ended up in Montreal, made my way to Vancouver, was office boy for the phone company. And then by the time I'm 19, I'm a district manager for the phone company. When I met my wife, who was an operator, got my number. We moved down to the United States legally as legal residents, and in the cosmetic industry for about 27 years. Been an entrepreneur for many, many years, also involved in real estate. And we're on the final stretch, as we say. And we have a little mantra called, I say it, we aspire to inspire before we expire. And today I am a thoroughbred entrepreneur doing all kinds of fun things. Never been busier in my life. I feel more fulfilled and happy than I think I've ever been. And excited for every day. There we are. Amen.
First of all, first and foremost, he said he was 81. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I think we need to check ID. Because with everything that he is doing, he doesn't sound like he's 81. He sounds like he's maybe, we'll push it and say maybe in the 40s.
You've been kind.
So, with all of the time that you spent as an entrepreneur, and I know that one of the things is you call yourself a serial entrepreneur, and you just listed some amazing things. What has been one of the lessons that you learned in getting started with each one?
Well, the key lesson that I'm still learning, because life is a whip, we call work in progress. One of the key lessons is that to basically focus. I have a little acronym called FAR, and that's equals F for the focus, A for action, and R for results. So if you FAR everything, you can make your day easier. One of the things that I'm still learning is to focus, because as an entrepreneur, I tend to get entrepreneurial diarrhea. It's very busy and very highly creative, and that's one of the challenges of an entrepreneur, of course, is that you come up with these ideas. And I met a famous politician who said the difference between him and me was that he came up with big ideas and took action, and I've followed that advice for the last 10, 15 years, and it works. So if you just focus on the idea, take action, and you will get results.
That speaks volumes, because again, for someone who has been in the industry for this length of time, listen, you've been able to see a span of things. You've been able to see the shift from publishing with a publisher to being an indie publisher, and how, at this point, we now have a lot more power as an indie author. But was it scary going through it? As you were seeing the things start to shift more to independent and entrepreneurial, journeys, as opposed to working for a company?
Could you rephrase that a little bit for me so I get a better grip on it?
So as things have been able to shift, because there's been huge shifts when it comes to, I'll just say in the publishing industry as an author, moving from working with a publishing company to being able to do so much as an indie author, was it something where you kind of looked and said, that'll be over in about 3 months? Or was it something that you really took a hold of and said, you know what, I really see the positives in it?
Well, the publishing industry is like so many other industries, it's going through major changes. And, from self-publishing to the traditional stuff, there's about roughly 300,000 books published a year. And I'll give you an example of sort of an answer to your question, which I'll describe it for you. One of my publishing projects is what I call vanity publishing. And we have a site up on that. It's famous50.com. And on the site, you can go, there's about 100 categories. You can go into the book. You can be in a book for $50. We're donating most of the profits to a charity. And you can be in a book with 50 other people. People buy license plates and they spend money to do that, to have a little vanity. Well, this is a sort of a takeoff of that, where you can be in a book, Famous 50 Entrepreneurs as an example, or Famous 50 Realtors, using that little book as a cornerstone for your PR or for your marketing, to give you, an opportunity to expose your talents and your skill sets in the market that you're in. The vanity publishing project is now going to be self-published. And the publishing industry is fraught with all kinds of interesting stuff. So you want to be careful when you get into it. And all I can say is it's a trial by error. Basically, you have to learn and do your homework, take the time to learn what you need to know, and then move on. And as soon as you start writing checks, guess what? Stuff happens.
So very true. So very true. Now, that jumps right into my next question with what happened with this whole idea of going towards being in the Guinness Book of World Records? Where did that come from?
Well, I've always been very, very competitive. And we're talking about, your show basically leaving a legacy. It's not about money for me so much, although that's always fun. But I had a great, possibly great grandfather who supposedly was the champion clay pigeon shot in England. I obviously never met him, didn't know, and it might be total fabrication. I have no idea. All I know is that being competitive, I like to set a pace and then try to beat my own records. Well, when this started out, it was going to be a simple thing with a simple book. So my Guinness record, I thought, well, if it's going to be, I want to give my grandkids some bragging rights when I'm no longer here. And they can say, well, Papa was a pretty prolific writer. So I've got, and one thing, if you're going to do a book, by the way, the average book is going to sell about 200 or 300 copies. And people are quite disappointed about that. And you may be lucky enough to hit a big one, like a Harry Potter, but the chances are pretty slim. So in my case, I've got two series. I've got the Papa series, which is 1 through 10. That's Papa, the boy in England, Canada, United States, father, grandfather, all that sort of stuff. Married. There's a book. I have a book coming out on Married, the 4 seasons of marriage: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Of course, we're in the winter. That's a good time to write a book, because you can reflect back and make sure you got all the seasons covered properly. So, and I don't ever take advice from somebody that hasn't done what they're talking about. It'd be like going to a divorce counselor who's been divorced 3-4 times seeking marriage advice. Not a good idea. Anyway, the second series is the Famous 50 series. And so at the end of the day, I'll hopefully have a record on that, a Guinness record, which will be the oldest author to publish the most books in 1 year. And the trigger date is now. And Guinness, of course, is a pay to play if you want to. depending on what you want to do and how much noise you want to make. And, for the big granddaddy, they'll fly somebody out on your nickel and, meet the mayor and tell everybody how great you are. And I could care less about that, frankly, just for fun. I'm doing it for fun, basically.
Right. And I love that, though. And it was interesting because when I went to your website, that was one of the things that stood out for me, was leading something that the grandkids can boast about. And, oftentimes we're thinking about the here and now. A lot of times we're thinking about the marketing now. We're thinking about, how we're going to impact lives and connect with clients now. And we don't always project and say, okay, well, years down the line, what will this do for my grandchildren? What will this do for my great grandchildren? What will be the conversation that they have about me and the business that I am building?
Well, most of the things I do, I just literally do for fun because, life is an attitude of, about being happy and fulfilled and so on. Had a great conversation with someone recently who had a very successful career, multiple income streams and so on. And he said to me, David, it doesn't matter how much you have done, how much money you have made, but have you enjoyed the journey? Or are you enjoying the journey? And that resonated with me because if I checked out tomorrow, I would not be disappointed in any way. Had a fun ride, done lots of fun things, some frustrating things, of course, but then life events come into everybody's life, right? So you just learn how to deal with it. And I have been inspired by, some very short verses, and there's one called, I put it together, it's called 4 Words. Nelson Mandela, in his inaugural speech, challenged people to be greater than who they are. And you never know how good you can be until you actually take a deeper look into yourself and say, okay, could I do better? Yeah, probably yes. And will you? Well, that's up to you, your call. But in my case, I love challenges, and I love to help people if I can.
Which definitely sparks something, because one of the things that I love about this platform is being able to connect with speakers and authors who are all over the world. Right now, I'm in Maryland and you're in Hawaii. I'm a little tad bit jealous, but you're over in Hawaii. We're listening to, your journey. We're listening to your wisdom. We're listening to what it is that you've been able to accomplish, and being able to look at us, in our journey and where we are. I think what you just said it just hit the nail on the head. Are you loving the life you're living? Because it makes no sense to do it all and be miserable. And I think a lot of people are still in that mind frame of, I'm just trying to survive.
Well, that's true. I unleashing the potential within yourself. Of course, you need to give yourself permission to do that, and a lot of people are locked in their own little mental prisons. And the challenge with that, of course, is most people will compare the worst in themselves to the best in others, and in the process, they flush themselves down the self-image toilet. It's it's a learning process to not be fearful about your own success possibilities. And there are 2 things on that I'd like to comment real quick. There's a guy by the name of Sir Ken Robinson, who, of course, happens to be a Brit, a smart guy. And he talks about how education sometimes robs people of creativity. And I think he's on YouTube, and he's got some great stuff. For anybody that's challenging today to kind of open up their success doors and say, well, gosh, I could do better. Well, listen to him first, and then, buy a book called, Think and Grow Rich. That's a great book. It will help you unleash, the potential that you have. And the other thing where there's a lid put on people's potential to develop, I think, is caused by the job market. Um, Having a job sometimes robs you of your ability. It's a subtle thing. It robs you of your ability to actually open up and become who you really should be. And you don't have to go back too far in life to figure out really what that is. What were you doing as a kid that you really like? Because if you're doing something you really don't like, I would strongly suggest you take a look and figure out a way to get out of it and get into something that you do like, if it's a job. Of course, I'm a strong believer of entrepreneurship. And sadly, from my perspective anyway, most people are working at a job, filling somebody else's dream and not their own. So it takes courage to get out of the ruts. The only difference between a rut and a grave is the amount of dirt on the end. So
Exactly. And you got to get out of that negative headspace that, oh, I can do it for, and it's interesting though, because we feel as though we can do it for somebody else. We will go and we will wake up early, stay up late, we'll go and have creative ideas for a job. But then when it comes to, our business, we have this passion that's like burning on the inside of us. And we're just like, oh, but I don't know about the finances and I don't know about that. But we often forget that those businesses we're working for, they started off as an idea just like we have.
That's very true. Yeah, I didn't really fully answer your question about idea development. I think was the question. The whole world is full of ideas, and it's sad because so few people don't have the courage to actually move forward on it. And of course, that's one of the areas that the entrepreneur site helps people. But if you have an idea, just write it down. Don't think about like me. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning. I'm an early riser, and I wake up because I have an idea and I forget to write it down. Then an hour later I can't remember what it was. So write them down, and then interpret those ideas into perhaps functionality in the commercial marketplace, and see if it has some potential. Just make sure you protect yourself. I have a website called. I've got several websites, as you know, and this one is ideamanexpert.com, where you can go and register your idea for sale for a royalty fee. You can even buy a business if you want, whatever you want to do. Gives you an opportunity to explore those kinds of things without spending a lot of money.
That's a great idea. Because a lot of times, first of all, I'm right there with you with being an early riser. I'm normally up by 4 a.m. That's just, I'm wired that way. I'm wired that way. But being that early riser, getting into that habit of writing things down, and it is a habit. It's something that you have to practice because we've been so, quick to be told that, our ideas aren't valid, that you can't share that. That's not a good idea. Well, it may not be a good idea for you, but we have to think about it in this instance. There is somebody right now that's getting paid to snuggle. Like, somebody thought that was a good idea. And for somebody it is. There's people that are getting paid to swaddle people and, wrap them up like a burrito. And I mean, ideas are being put out into the world every single day. The only difference is they acted and you didn't.
That's very true. Very true. Yeah. So you're given you wouldn't have the idea if it wasn't real, and whether it's functional or not, you have to discover that. That's part of the fun.
And someone just asked about the website over in the those who are watching. Could you give them the website one more time that you just gave?
Which one? Which one? Which site?
For the ideas.
Oh, okay. It's www.ideamanexpert.com.
Awesome.
And my personal website is davidselley.net. It's all listed on that site also. It's a multifunctional site.
Great. So now I always ask this question, and I'm sure that I'm going to love your answer, but I'm I'm going to ask it anyway. Uh, in this journey, have you had any blunders, any situations or circumstances that arose that you look back now and say, maybe that was not the best choice or the best idea?
Let me grab a cup of coffee. Do you have another hour? Oh, of course. It's like your first kiss. You improve with time, right? So the reality is, I have made many, many mistakes. Um, I could share literally dozens of them with you. From each one, though, you get some nuggets that you can then, reuse to correct the original problems. Of all of that, though, I think the key thing is to document, in reference to an idea, as an example, write it down, make sure you have it concise, and so on, and then I'll be happy to help you with the ideas on how to, or if it should go to market once you've done some homework and some research. But yeah, we've too many to tell you. Well,
I'm sitting here laughing because I was like, I knew it was going to be a good answer. I knew it was.
Well, Tony Robbins, Tony does well, right? He's well known, and he said you cannot have massive success. Then, well, how do you handle the failure? Well, that's where I have been blessed. I grew up in poverty and basically one cook, and I think that those bad conditions actually hardened me and gave me an inner strength that has allowed me to survive most of the bumps in life. And I've been blessed, I have. And certainly in terms of my relationship, I found a sweetheart, and we've stuck it out together, and that's unusual, and it's a special part of my life, of course. So that could be a whole nother show. The relationship side of life is so critically important, because if human beings need each other, unless you're Ted Wazinski up in the high desert someplace hanging out. But the fact is, we need each other, and when you have someone special that's really special, then you are truly blessed, and I am. So we talk about that. My wife and I talk about that a lot. We've got a show and a presentation we do for that to help relationships, about your relationship. Score 1 through 10. You both do it, assuming you have a significant other. And then you trade papers, and then choose weapons on how you're going to kill each other. No, I'm kidding. The fact is, those questions are very incisive questions about how your relationship is, and because that's a key. It's also in business, by the way. So you can, once you've got the communication thing set up and working properly, then it makes a huge difference in your life, because you can say a word to someone that means different to them because they don't really understand it the way you say it. So if you have a score sheet, how you can, as an example, one of the techniques that we've used is what we call we call it the scale. It's a scale of 1 through 10, to say to each other, well, this, on a scale of 1 to 10, people can refer to a numerical number. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 9.2 on the importance to me. So listen up, dude. I'm going to tell you, this is a 9.2. This is how important it is to me. It doesn't matter how you say it. Now he knows if it's a male or she. They will understand the scale of 9.2. That's a very important thing, like the Richter scale. It's got a high rating, and so that then, it must be important to him. Wow, better listen up, instead of just looking at your phone and trying to figure out what the next text message is while somebody's saying something important to you. So
exactly. We're in a society at the point that communication it's been put on fire, and we are looking at the ashes right now, trying to figure out, if we put water on it, can we make it grow? Can we make it come back? And I think that the scale system that you referred to is a great way to be able to bring that back. One of the most valuable things is that we teach people how to treat us. We teach people what we value and how to respect us. And a lot of times it can be a tug of war because we've not done it before now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it can seem a little scary. It can seem a little edgy sometimes that, well, why now? Why do you want to choose now for, you to stand up and say, no, you're going to, do this, you're going to respect me, or, this is, this is how I would like to be treated, and expecting people to either going to line up or they're going to walk away.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the communication is an important part, and it's one-on-one because there's the nuances of voice inflection, body language, etc. But at the end of the day, another part of that relationship thing, by the way, is what we call the 95-5. When people are discussing, and this is like couples now as an example, or even just two people talking to each other, most people will tend to spend about 95% of the time on the problem. I mean, you can see that today in today's public conversation. Problem. They're not talking solutions. So what we do is 95-5. We switch it around. We'll spend 5% of the time of the discussion time on the problem, and 95% of the time on a 10 list selection of how to solve that problem. That eliminates all of the personal invectives and you did and you always and all the negative stuff. You'll end up with a positive reaction to a negative situation that is now being mutually solved because you're not tearing each other apart.
Exactly. You're not in defensive mode.
That's right.
It's interesting because I know I'm dating myself. I'm 39, but when I was in school, one of the things that they taught us was active listening. They don't necessarily teach that anymore. And you can tell. You can tell in politics, you can tell in the world, you can tell that that's just not being taught, that you should be actively listening, not listening just to respond, but listening so you can hear what that other person is saying. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate everything you just said, simply because, again, that is a part of that legacy that we leave behind. Is, you were able to do this, and you might have been able to make millions, and you might have been able to do that, but it's the little things. Well, Mom always said this. Granddad always said this. It's those little things that are kind of, passed down from generation to generation to, I remember way back when our great at some point, said that you should do it this way, or they left this quote for us to live by. I think that really speaks volumes. It does.
Well, as you grow up, right? I mean, at 39, you're just the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, when you realize that mom and dad lied to you with the tooth fairy and Santa Claus, you
Yeah,
have to
okay.
overcome the trauma of being deceived. So um, the reality is, though, we all, I've done this before when I'm speaking. The reality is, your life, using an illustration of the lifeboat or a rowboat. You're in charge. You've got two oars, and you keep pulling, and hopefully you're at even strength, so you're going to go straight ahead. You might pick up a straggler on the way who says, "Oh, I'll help you out," and they get in and start pulling on the oar, but then they get tired or fall off or whatever, and so you end up going in a circle. So at the end of the day, your life is your own rowboat, and you better keep in there and keep going, pulling even on both oars. Just a little advice there, but 39. Oh my goodness.
I'm over here just like I'm like, yes, I love that.
So you have a 0 coming up on the next one. That's going to be
I
traumatic.
know. No, wait, don't say it's going to be traumatic.
Well, there's good trauma and bad trauma, right?
I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I have been able to accomplish some things that most have not been able to do by the age of 40. And so I'm very thankful. I really am.
Sure. Well, look at what you have done. I mean, it's wonderful what you do. The people, you know, people are influenced by words, and you put people online and they share their stories and information, and that has an impact on people's lives, no question about that. I i can, my little verse, 4 words, deals with that. I'll send you a copy, by the way, when we get through. um, it's a words are powerful, and whenever I meet a teacher, I always thank a teacher. I said, you will never know how many people, young children, you've affected with your words of encouragement, guidance. uh, and I was impacted directly by my headmaster in England. I was single parent house, and that headmaster was singularly responsible for, quite literally, I chose to, of course. I made some choices. I came close to the wrong choices at one time, but as a result of his guidance and information, one individual can change your life with a few words. And so what you're doing is powerful, because you're sharing the collective wisdom of all the people that come on, and everybody has their own buffet of interests, and they pick a little here and a little there, and out of it comes some positive stuff, and that's why your show is successful, because people are interested. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Congratulations.
Okay, I'm not going to get all mushy.
Okay.
But I absolutely am thankful, and I appreciate you saying
Well, good. Thank you.
that. It's definitely been a journey, but making the impact has been my focus. And that's different than the majority. The majority, their focus is the finances. The majority, their focus is you know making it to 7, 8, 11 figures.
Yeah.
But my focus has been different, and when I changed my focus, I started connecting with even more powerful people, because I found that even the ones who are making, not all of them, we won't say all, but a good number of the people that have been successful, that have built businesses, and they're not always in the limelight. They're not always, the loudest person in the room, but the impact of who they are makes a huge difference on the life we're living as a society. And I said, that's part of the legacy that I personally want to leave for my children to be able to say, well, yeah, my mom opened up a homeless shelter here, or, she did this and made an impact for children in this community. Those things stand out because for me, they're seed sown.
Mhm.
and I don't know where the harvest is going to, come from. I don't know if I'm ever going. I don't even know if I'm going to see the harvest, but there's going to be a harvest.
Yeah. Well, you will though, Teresa. You can guarantee it's in the bank for you. Okay. The truth is, you attract what you manifest, and your core values are good values, and as a result of that, you will no doubt in my mind at all. As indeed for the people that are listening, if they want to achieve something, they've got to believe in themselves and believe in what they're doing, be honest and truthful, and success will come to them. And it doesn't just have to be the money either, although that's important. But you can see most recently in the headlines, people that are wealthy, had some serious issues in their life. So it's not about that. It's about what's inside you and what your core values are about humanity and how you can have an impact on those people. So, yeah, I think what you're doing is wonderful.
I love it. We could sit here and talk all day, and I would try to figure out how I'm going to get on a flight and get to Hawaii. But I
Well,
definitely
it's
look.
a magical place.
Right? I know it is. I follow some people who are on Periscope who live stream, and they live stream from the islands, and they live stream the volcano, and it's on my list. I'm getting to Hawaii. I'm going to get to Hawaii. I love it.
Well, it's one of the most remote places on Earth, and 2,300 miles from anything. And but it's beautiful here. We love the culture, and of course, we were in Southern California for many years. But I used to come here to Hawaii when I was in corporate life. But there's something magical about the islands, and we love it. Really do. We love the culture, the people. It's truly lovely place to sail off into the sunset.
I love it. Every bit of it. So, David, let everybody know how they can reach out to you and get in contact with you for more information, and how they can follow along for this famous 50 journey that you're on as well.
Sure. Well, the best thing to do would be to take down my ELLEY.net, and everything is on that site. All the different options, things that might interest you. You can pass on some of them, obviously, and not everybody's going to be interested in the senior park project. But lovely to talk with you and share some time with you.
It's great, guys. So I would just encourage you to reach out, connect with David. Why? Because again, with all of the wisdom, the experience that he has when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to book publishing, when it comes the many years that are there, just come with a notebook, a notebook and a pen, and sit and listen. That's there's there's a special moment where you feel like at some points you don't really need to talk a whole lot. You just need to be in the room and listen, because you know that jewels and diamonds are going to be just handed out, from the many years of experience that he has. So that is someone you definitely want to connect with. If he's over here in the States, find your way to him. Don't stalk him, but find your way. Find your way to him, because I can guarantee it's going to be definitely a great conversation. And guys, we appreciate you, all of you who are in the studio audience listening live, those of you who are going to catch the replay of this. We appreciate you, because without the Speakeasy podcast listeners, there is no Speakeasy podcast show. That part. Not only that, if you are an author or speaker, I would love to have you on as a guest. bit.ly/Speakeasy podcast, all lowercase, is how you choose a date that works best for you to come on and be in the hot seat sometimes it's a hot seat, y'all. Be in the hot seat, and we can talk about your successful or not so successful journey to being the paid speaker or author. With that being said, I am your host, Alfie Pelzer, and until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.